In the wild world of Southeast Asian politics, there are few stories as compelling or as complicated as that of Malaysia's Prime Minister, Anwar Ibrahim. This is a guy who's been a student activist, a finance minister, a prisoner of conscience, and now, finally, the leader of his country. So in this explainer, we're going to try and unravel the big question at the heart of his career. So who is this guy, really? Is he the visionary statesman his supporters always believed in, the one who could finally steer Malaysia forward? Or is he a political illusionist, someone who compromised so much to gain power that he lost the very ideals he fought for? It's a fascinating question. I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? The drama of his career is just off the charts. We're talking Shakespearean levels of highs, lows, betrayals, and comebacks. To really understand him, you have to look at both sides of the story. So let's start with the case for Anwar, the leader. To really get a sense of the man, you have to understand the journey. And believe me, it wasn't just a political career, it was an odyssey. It spanned decades and really defined a whole generation of Malaysian politics. Just look at this timeline for a second. It's absolutely wild. It all kicks off in 1998 when he's not just sacked but beaten in custody, which sparks this huge reformasi movement. Then he spends 6 years in prison on what were widely seen as politically motivated charges. He gets out, leads the opposition to this incredible historic victory in 2018, only to get outmaneuvered and denied the top job. It wasn't until 2022, after decades of this struggle, that he finally becomes prime minister. Talk about perseverance. So what happens when he finally gets into power? Well, the results start to speak for themselves. After years of political chaos, his government finally brought some stability, and that had a real direct impact on the economy. Under his Madani framework, which is all about sustainability and good governance, Malaysia's economy posted this really impressive 5.1% growth in 2024. And that stability, it was like a giant neon open for business sign for the rest of the world. It didn't just boost growth, it totally supercharged investor confidence. You can see it right here in the numbers. Malaysia saw historic levels of foreign investment, with tech giants like Google pouring in billions of dollars. Anwar was really smart about this, positioning Malaysia as this stable, neutral hub right in the middle of the growing rivalry between the US and China. And it wasn't just about the economy. On the world stage, he was playing chess. He seriously elevated Malaysia's role as the 2025 chair of ASEAN, the big regional group. He managed to walk that incredibly difficult tightrope between the US and China, and he even pulled off a major diplomatic coup by hosting President Trump. After a few years where Malaysia was kind of fading from the scene, Anwar put it right back in the spotlight. So, a pretty compelling case for Anwar the leader, but, and there is a big but, that's only half the story. Okay, so now we have to look at the other side of the coin. This is where the mirror cracks. Because for every argument that Anwar is a genuine reformer, there's a really strong counterargument that he's a political survivor who basically threw away the very principles that got him into power in the first place. Okay, this right here, this is the heart of the problem for his supporters. The entire Reformasi movement, his whole political identity, was built on fighting the corruption of the ruling party UMNO. But then, to become prime minister, what does he do? He forms a government with UMNO. He even made its president, a man facing a ton of corruption charges, his deputy. For the people who had followed him for decades, this wasn't a compromise. It felt like a total betrayal. And listen to this quote from a publication that was close to the reform movement. It just captures that feeling of disillusionment perfectly. The sense was that the revolutionary had just joined the establishment he fought against. The man who started the movement was now being accused of burying it. And it wasn't just that one huge compromise. International observers like Human Rights Watch started noticing some pretty troubling trends. Instead of getting rid of repressive laws like he promised, his government actually tried to expand them, cracking down on free speech online. The irony was just crushing for his critics. The former political prisoner was now restricting the very freedoms he once championed. So, what's the political fallout from all this? Well, it's been immense. Just look at this breakdown. He's bleeding support from literally every direction. The reformists who were his core base feel betrayed. The conservative Malay voters he was trying to win over with his compromises, they're still not convinced. And minority groups feel like he's abandoned their causes.
He's basically trapped in a political no man's land, pleasing almost no one.
So, where does that leave us? A leader who brings stability and growth, but also an illusionist who compromises his core ideals? What are we supposed to make of that? Well, the crazy thing is, the answer might just be both at the same time. Someone came up with this absolutely brilliant metaphor for him. Schrodinger's statesman. Like the cat in the box, it's both dead and alive. Anwar's reformist principles are kind of the same. If you're an investor and you see stability and growth, he's a fantastic reformer. The reforms are alive. But if you're a human rights activist and you see repressive new laws, well, those reforms look pretty dead. It all depends on how you look at it. This table just lays out the whole paradox so clearly. In the leader column, you have these undeniable achievements: political stability, economic growth, huge foreign investment. But then you look at the illusionist column and you see the price tag: alliances with his sworn enemies, backsliding on human rights, and a broken promise on fighting corruption. He is, somehow, both Malaysia's most capable recent leader and its most disappointing one. And if you want to boil this whole complicated mess down to just one statistic, this is it. A majority of people, 54%, approve of him as a leader. But at the exact same time, a majority, 53%, feel the country is on the wrong path. How is that even possible? It seems he's mastered the art of political survival, but in the process, has he lost the nation's sense of direction? It almost feels like a classic political tragedy, right? You spend 26 years in the political wilderness, fighting for power. That long, brutal wait teaches you everything you need to know about survival, about making deals, about compromise. But then, when you finally get the power you fought for, those survival skills take over. The compromise stops being a tool and it becomes the entire strategy, replacing the very ideals you started with. Which leaves us with this final kind of haunting question. Is this all just a story about a brilliant political illusionist who tricked his way to the top? Or is it something more tragic than that? Is this the story of a genuine idealist who spent so long, so many decades, just fighting to get to his destination, that by the time he finally arrived, he'd forgotten why he started the journey in the first place?